Something has changed around Karol G and Bruno Mars' highly anticipated collaboration, and fans are already paying attention. The single Still has received a new cover art update across major music platforms, while the collaboration has now appeared on Bruno Mars' Spotify page under the latest releases section. And while that may sound like a simple platform update, for fans who have been following every movement surrounding Karol G and Bruno Mars, this is exactly the kind of detail that can trigger a much bigger conversation. If you are following Bruno Mars, Karol G, Still, new music releases, Spotify updates, or the latest celebrity music news, make sure you stay with us until the end, because there is an important detail about this update that makes the timing especially interesting. And before we continue, hit the like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications if you want more breaking updates about Bruno Mars, Karol G, music collaborations, Spotify releases, and the biggest stories happening in pop music right now. Here is what fans are seeing. Karol G and Bruno Mars' collaboration single, Still, has been updated with new cover art across music platforms, and the song is now also appearing on Bruno Mars' Spotify profile in the latest releases area. That change immediately gives the collaboration a different level of visibility, especially because Spotify is one of the most important platforms for music discovery and streaming in the world. For casual listeners, a cover art update might look like nothing more than a visual adjustment. But for fans, timing matters. When a major collaboration receives a visible update on streaming platforms, people naturally begin asking questions. Is this simply a metadata update? Is the release moving into another promotional stage? Is the collaboration getting ready for a larger push? Or is this simply the digital infrastructure being updated as the song becomes more prominently connected to both artists? At this point, the safest conclusion is simple. The song's presentation has changed, and Still is now more visibly connected to Bruno Mars' Spotify catalog. And that alone is enough to put the collaboration back into the spotlight. Karol G and Bruno Mars represent two completely different musical worlds that have increasingly been moving toward the same global audience. Karol G has established herself as one of the biggest Latin music stars in the world, while Bruno Mars remains one of the most recognizable performers in contemporary pop, R&B, funk, and soul. So when those two names appear together, the attention is almost automatic. Now add a new cover art update. Then add the appearance of Still under Bruno Mars' latest releases. Suddenly, fans have another reason to look at the song. And this is where the story becomes more interesting. The music industry has changed dramatically in the streaming era. A song does not exist only as an audio file anymore. Its title, artwork, artist profile placement, metadata, playlists, social media presence, release information, and platform visibility can all influence how audiences discover and interpret it. That means a visual update can become part of the story. Spotify, in particular, has become a central destination for fans checking what their favorite artists are releasing. When listeners visit Bruno Mars' official Spotify profile, the latest releases section can act as a snapshot of what the platform currently identifies as his newest or most recently associated music. And now Still is showing up there. That is significant from a visibility standpoint. But there is another reason fans are watching closely. Bruno Mars has been experiencing one of the busiest periods of his career, with his return to solo music, the success of his recent projects, major streaming milestones, and his ongoing The Romantic Tour, keeping his name constantly in the global music conversation. At the same time, Karol G continues to dominate conversations around Latin pop, reggaeton, global streaming, and international collaborations. Put those two timelines together, and Still suddenly becomes much more than a collaboration between two famous artists. It becomes a meeting point between two enormous global fan bases. And that is exactly why even a seemingly small update can create a wave of speculation. Fans are looking at the new cover art. They are checking Spotify. They are searching the song title. They are comparing what appears on different platforms. And they are asking the obvious question, what happens next? Before we get there, it is important to separate what is confirmed from what is speculation. The confirmed development is that Still has received an updated cover presentation across music platforms, and is now visible on Bruno Mars' Spotify profile under Latest Releases. What has not been officially established by this update alone is whether it signals a new music video, a major promotional campaign, a remix, a live performance, a chart push, or another unrevealed project. And that distinction matters, because the internet moves extremely fast. One small change can become a huge rumor within minutes. A new image becomes a new era. A profile update becomes a surprise release. A song appearing on a profile becomes evidence of a hidden announcement. But the reality is usually more complicated. Streaming platforms constantly update metadata, artwork, artist associations, and catalog information. Sometimes these changes are connected to marketing. Sometimes they are simply part of normal digital distribution. So the smartest way to look at the still update is not to assume something that has not been confirmed. Instead, look at what the update actually tells us. It tells us that still is receiving attention at the platform level. It tells us the song's visual identity has changed. And it tells us that the collaboration is now more clearly visible within Bruno Mars' current Spotify presentation. That is already enough to make fans curious. Now imagine the visual. A listener opens Spotify. They search Bruno Mars. They enter his profile. They scroll through the latest releases. And there it is. Still. The collaboration with Karol G. That moment is important because Spotify is not just a place where people listen to songs. It is also a discovery engine. A song appearing in a prominent position can potentially lead listeners who were not previously searching for the collaboration to discover it. And this is where the combination of Bruno Mars and Karol G becomes especially powerful. Their audiences overlap in one important area: global reach. Bruno Mars has a massive international audience built across years of hit records, stadium performances, streaming success, and viral moments. Karol G has built a global audience through Latin music, Spanish-language hits, massive tours, international collaborations, and an enormous presence across digital platforms. A collaboration between them, therefore, has the potential to reach listeners who might not normally consume the same playlists. A Bruno Mars fan may discover Karol G. A Karol G fan may discover more of Bruno Mars. And casual pop listeners may simply click because both names are attached to the same song. That cross-audience effect is one of the most valuable elements of a global music collaboration. And still has another advantage. The title itself is simple. It is memorable. It is easy to search. And when combined with the names Bruno Mars and Karol G, it becomes a highly recognizable search phrase for fans looking for updates. That is why searches such as Bruno Mars Karol G still, Karol G Bruno Mars collaboration, still Bruno Mars, still Karol G, Bruno Mars new song, Karol G new music, Bruno Mars Spotify, and Karol G Spotify are likely to become part of the conversation surrounding the update. The bigger question is whether this platform activity will translate into a larger promotional moment. And this is where we need to slow down. A Spotify profile update does not automatically guarantee a new announcement. It does not automatically confirm a music video. It does not automatically confirm a live performance. And it does not automatically mean that Bruno Mars and Karol G are preparing to release something immediately. But it does give fans a new digital signal to watch. And in modern pop music, signals matter. Artists and record labels carefully manage how music appears across streaming services, social media, official profiles, digital stores, and promotional channels. That means fans are often watching not just the music itself, but the movement surrounding it. A new image, a new placement, a new profile appearance, a new piece of metadata, a new promotional visual. Each individual detail may seem small, but when several details begin appearing around the same time, fans start putting the pieces together. And that is why the Still update has created interest. Now let's talk about the biggest potential impact. If Still begins receiving stronger platform visibility, the song could gain another wave of attention from listeners who may have missed it previously. Spotify discovery can be powerful because a listener does not always need to search for an artist manually. Music can reach audiences through artist pages, playlists, recommendations, algorithmic discovery, release radar, daily mixes, and other personalized experiences. That means visibility can potentially translate into streams. And streams can translate into chart movement. And chart movement can create another news cycle. And another news cycle can lead to social media trends. This is how modern music momentum works. One update becomes another update. One fan post becomes thousands. A song gets rediscovered. A clip goes viral. A performance gets shared. And suddenly a collaboration that was already interesting becomes one of the most discussed songs online. That possibility is exactly why fans are watching still so closely. But there is another layer to this story. Bruno Mars and Karol G are not simply two artists with large audiences. They represent different musical cultures that have increasingly become part of the same global pop ecosystem. Latin music is no longer confined to one regional market. English language pop is no longer the only center of global mainstream music. Streaming has broken down many of the barriers between genres and languages. Today, a song can move from Spanish-speaking markets to the United States, from Europe to Asia, and from Latin America to virtually anywhere in the world within hours. And artists like Karol G are a major part of that transformation. Bruno Mars, meanwhile, has spent years creating music that crosses genre boundaries. Pop, R&B, funk, soul, hip-hop influences, retro sounds, modern production. His music has always had an international quality. That makes a Bruno Mars and Karol G collaboration especially interesting from a cultural perspective. It is not simply about putting two famous names on the same track. It is about connecting audiences. And that connection could become even more important if Still receives additional promotion. Now here comes the part fans will probably be watching most closely. Will Bruno Mars personally acknowledge the updated release presentation? Will Karol G promote the song again? Will Still appear in upcoming playlists? Will the collaboration receive additional visual content? Could fans eventually see a live performance? Those questions remain open, and that uncertainty is exactly what keeps the story alive. Because right now, there is a confirmed update, but there is also an unanswered question about what the update could lead to. And that is where the curiosity surrounding Still becomes much bigger than the artwork itself. Think about how quickly music trends can develop. A song can remain relatively quiet for weeks or months, and then suddenly explode because of a performance, a TikTok clip, a celebrity mention, a playlist placement, or a new promotional image. The internet does not always follow a predictable schedule. Sometimes the smallest change becomes the spark. And right now, the new cover art and Spotify placement have given fans exactly that spark. There is also something psychologically powerful about seeing a collaboration officially associated with an artist's latest releases. For fans of Bruno Mars, it creates the impression that Still belongs within the current chapter of his musical story. For Karol G fans, it reinforces the significance of the collaboration and keeps the song visible within the conversation around her latest music. And for casual listeners, the appearance of two global superstars together is enough to create curiosity. That is the power of the name combination. Karol G, Bruno Mars, Still. Three elements that can generate enormous search interest when placed together. And if the song begins gaining momentum on Spotify or social media, the story could evolve very quickly. This is also why fans should avoid jumping to conclusions. The best approach is to watch the official artist profiles and verified announcements. If something bigger is coming, the next signal will eventually become clearer. Until then, the updated cover art and Spotify placement remain the key developments. And there is no denying that they have already restarted the conversation. For Bruno Mars, this arrives during a period when his name is already dominating music headlines. His return to solo music has created renewed interest from longtime fans and a new generation of listeners. For Karol G, it comes at a time when her international profile continues to expand. Together, they represent the kind of cross-market collaboration that modern streaming platforms are built to amplify. And that may be the most important part of this entire story. The music industry is no longer only about the day a song is released. It is about what happens after the release. How often people discover it. How the artwork evolves. How the song is positioned. How artists interact with it. How fans respond. How algorithms recommend it. And how quickly a moment can spread across social media. Still now has another digital moment, and fans are watching. The new cover art gives the collaboration a refreshed visual identity. The Spotify latest releases placement gives it increased visibility on Bruno Mars' profile. And the combination of those two developments is enough to create a fresh wave of curiosity around Karol G and Bruno Mars. But perhaps the most exciting part is that the story is not finished. Because the update itself may be the end of one chapter, but it could also become the beginning of another. A bigger promotional push, a new visual, a performance, a social media moment, or simply a renewed wave of listeners discovering the song. We do not know yet, and that is precisely why fans are paying attention. For now, the message is clear. Still is back in the spotlight. Karol G and Bruno Mars remain at the center of the conversation. And the updated presentation across music platforms has given fans another reason to revisit the collaboration and ask what might happen next. So if you are a Bruno Mars fan, a Karol G fan, or simply someone watching the biggest international music collaborations of 2026, this is definitely a story worth keeping an eye on. Because sometimes the biggest music stories do not begin with a massive announcement. Sometimes they begin with a small change, a new image, a new placement, a new appearance on an artist's profile. And then the fans notice. The conversation starts. The searches increase. The streams follow. And suddenly, everyone is asking the same question. What is coming next for Still? For now, we have the update. We have the new cover art. We have the Spotify appearance. And we have two global superstars attached to one highly anticipated collaboration. Everything beyond that remains a question until Bruno Mars, Karol G, or their official teams confirm it. But one thing is certain. Still has just received another moment in the spotlight, and fans are not ignoring it. If you enjoyed this update, make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications for more Bruno Mars news, Karol G updates, Spotify releases, new music announcements, celebrity collaborations, streaming milestones, and the latest developments from the world of global pop music. And most importantly, tell us what you think. Do you believe the updated cover art and Bruno Mars' Spotify latest releases placement are simply a platform update? Or could they be the beginning of a bigger promotional moment for Still? Whatever happens next, one thing is already clear. The conversation around Karol G and Bruno Mars is not slowing down. And Still has just given fans another reason to watch closely. The latest updates surrounding Still may appear subtle at first, but in the world of streaming music, subtle changes can sometimes become the beginning of a much larger conversation. Karol G and Bruno Mars have already generated enormous attention simply by being connected to the same collaboration. Now, with the song receiving updated cover art across music platforms and appearing on Bruno Mars' Spotify profile under latest releases, fans have another reason to revisit the track and examine every detail. And this is where the story takes another turn. Because when millions of listeners are already familiar with an artist, even a small change on a major streaming platform can create immediate curiosity. Fans do not just listen anymore. They investigate. They compare. They screenshot. They share. They search. And once enough people start doing that at the same time, a simple platform update can become a trending music story. That is exactly what makes this Still situation so interesting. The collaboration connects two artists who have built extraordinary careers on completely different musical foundations. Yet both have achieved the same ultimate goal, becoming global stars. Karol G has transformed Latin music into a global mainstream force, while Bruno Mars has consistently demonstrated his ability to move between pop, R&B, funk, soul, and retro-inspired sounds without losing his identity. When these two worlds meet, there is naturally going to be a massive amount of attention. But there is something else happening here. The renewed visibility of Still could introduce the song to a completely different group of listeners. Imagine a Bruno Mars fan opening Spotify to check the artist's newest releases. They see Still, notice Karol G's name, and decide to listen. Now imagine a Karol G fan doing the opposite. They discover Bruno Mars attached to a song they may not have expected. That is the power of cross-audience discovery. One collaboration can effectively introduce one superstar's audience to another superstar's music. And Spotify is one of the most important places where that discovery can happen. Streaming platforms have become the modern record store, radio station, music magazine, and recommendation engine all at once. Listeners do not always need to wait for a traditional radio station to introduce them to a song. They can discover it through an artist profile, a playlist, an algorithmic recommendation, a friend's activity, or a viral social media clip. That means visibility matters. And right now, Still has received another dose of visibility. The updated cover art also adds an important visual component. In the streaming era, artwork is part of the identity of a song. Before someone hears the first note, they often see the cover. Before someone clicks play, they see the artist names. Before a song becomes part of a playlist, its visual identity can already influence how memorable it feels. That is why fans immediately notice when cover art changes. A new image can make an old song feel new again. It can encourage listeners to click. It can create a new conversation on social media. And it can give fans something visual to share. That does not necessarily mean the song has been completely reworked or that a new version is coming. But it does mean that the presentation surrounding Still has changed. And that change is now part of the story. There is also a larger question about timing. Why now? That is the question many fans are naturally asking. Why has the artwork been updated at this particular moment? Why is the song appearing on Bruno Mars' latest releases section? Is this connected to a larger promotional strategy? Or is it simply the result of digital distribution and catalog management? Without an official explanation, nobody can responsibly claim to know the answer. And that is important. In an era where celebrity rumors can spread faster than official announcements, separating facts from theories is essential. The fact is that the song has been updated. The fact is that its visibility on Bruno Mars' Spotify profile has changed. The speculation begins when people try to predict what happens next. And that is where fans should keep their eyes open without assuming anything has been confirmed. Because if there is a larger plan behind the update, the next piece of information will eventually reveal itself. Maybe it will be another streaming platform update. Maybe it will be a social media post. Maybe it will be a new visual. Maybe the artists will mention the collaboration. Or maybe nothing else will happen immediately. All of those possibilities remain open. But the interesting thing is that Still now has renewed attention. And attention is one of the most valuable currencies in the music business. Every stream starts with a listener deciding to press play. Every viral clip starts with someone deciding to share. Every chart position begins with people choosing to listen. And every major music trend starts somewhere. Sometimes it starts with a huge announcement. Other times, it begins with something as simple as a new piece of artwork. That is why this update deserves attention. It reminds us that the life of a song does not necessarily end when the initial release cycle is over. Songs can have second lives. They can return through social media. They can reappear on playlists. They can become popular months after release. They can gain momentum after live performances. And collaborations involving artists as globally recognized as Bruno Mars and Karol G have an enormous potential audience waiting to discover them. There is also the possibility of renewed interest from international markets. Bruno Mars has one of the strongest global pop audiences in the world. Karol G has one of the strongest global Latin music audiences. Their collaboration naturally creates an international bridge. Listeners in the United States can discover Karol G. Listeners across Latin America can discover Bruno Mars. Fans in Europe and Asia can discover both. And that is exactly what modern global music looks like. Language is no longer the barrier it once was. Genre is no longer the barrier it once was. A listener can have a playlist containing Latin pop, R&B, K-pop, hip-hop, electronic music, and classic soul without thinking twice. The audience is global and still exists inside that global environment. That is why the names Bruno Mars and Karol G appearing together can generate such a powerful reaction. Now, there is another detail worth considering. Bruno Mars' Spotify profile is one of the most recognizable artist pages in the world. When a song appears there, it becomes part of the artist's digital ecosystem. Fans often use these pages to track new music, recent releases, popular songs, albums, collaborations, and streaming activity. So seeing Still under latest releases can make the collaboration feel more immediate to people who visit Bruno Mars' profile. It is not hidden somewhere deep inside a catalog. It is being presented in a place where listeners naturally look for recent music. That creates another opportunity for discovery. And if even a small percentage of visitors decide to click, the song can receive additional streams. If those streams continue to increase, the song can potentially gain more algorithmic visibility. And if the momentum becomes strong enough, social media may notice. This is how one digital signal can potentially create another. But again, we should not confuse potential with certainty. The update does not guarantee a chart breakthrough. It does not guarantee a viral moment. And it does not confirm a future announcement. What it does is create another opportunity for Still to be seen and heard. And that alone can be valuable. Now think about the timing from a fan perspective. Bruno Mars has been in the spotlight because of his music, his massive performances, his ongoing tour activity, and his continued presence across streaming platforms. Karol G is also commanding attention through her own music, global fan base, and international presence. When both artists are already generating headlines independently, any connection between them can become amplified. A collaboration does not exist in isolation. It benefits from the attention surrounding both artists. If Bruno Mars trends, people may search his catalog. If Karol G trends, people may search her catalog. And when fans search both names together, Still becomes a natural destination. This is where search behavior becomes extremely important. People may search for Bruno Mars Karol G, Bruno Mars Karol G Still, Karol G new collaboration, Bruno Mars new song, Still music video, Still Spotify, or simply Bruno Mars latest release. Every search represents curiosity, and curiosity can become a stream. A stream can become a repeat listen. A repeat listen can become a playlist edition. And a playlist edition can introduce the song to even more listeners. That cycle can continue as long as people remain interested. This is why music promotion today is not just about advertisements. It is also about creating moments that give people a reason to talk. And right now, the updated presentation of Still has created exactly that kind of moment. There is something fascinating about the fact that fans are paying attention to artwork and profile placement. It shows how closely audiences now follow their favorite artists. Years ago, many listeners would only notice a song when they heard it on radio or saw a music video. Today, fans can notice changes almost instantly. They can track Spotify pages. They can compare Apple Music. They can watch social media. They can monitor streaming numbers. They can analyze cover art. They can identify changes in artist